Good evening, and welcome to the April 2017 edition of League of Women Voters Presents. This is the public affairs show that talks about interesting and important issues to mid-Missouri. My name is Randy Picht. I'm the executive director of the Donald W. Reynolds Journalism Institute, and I'm filling in for regular host Jim Robertson, who's the managing editor of the Columbia Tribune. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a topic that is of interest around the country, and it's been of a special interest in our community in the past decade or so. And there's lots of different pieces of it, and there's lots of different ways that different parts of the community get involved. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and startups, and how to create a vibrant business community using those two approaches. And we're going to talk a little bit about crowdfunding, and we're going to try to cover the waterfront here with new ways to get started with business. And my guest tonight, who's going to walk us through all this, is Gerke, who has 30 years of management consulting business. He's a founder himself, an entrepreneur, and he also works with companies to help them figure out how to navigate these kind of relatively new waters. So welcome, Gene, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here, Randy.
So why don't we get started first? I know in Columbia, in terms of where to put resources to get new things started, there's been a fair amount of activity. Maybe you could just give us a quick kind of lay of the land on some of the things that have been going on lately?
Well, it might be even good to go back more than lately because I first got started in trying to figure out how we grow the entrepreneurial community in Columbia about 25 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Got started on that. My consulting business has taken me all over the country and all over the world, but I figured I'd sort of try my community service. Figure
Right.
some way to make that happen here. So about 25 years ago, I joined the board of the Missouri Innovation Center, which currently operates the Life Science Business Incubator on South Providence Road, the Mizzou Life Science Business Incubator. And at that time, when I joined them, we were in a double-wide trailer near where the incubator is now, and that was the extent of it. And it's been a long time coming, but the whole idea was how do we do things to transfer technology out of the university for startups to improve society, but how do we create opportunities for community people also to grow businesses and do things? So that was a long time ago, and it was quite a struggle for a number of years, but in the last decade it's just, in my opinion, taken off here locally. And very exciting to see what's happening.
What do you think has changed? I imagine 25 years ago it was a conversation that few people were having, and now it seems like you can't walk down the street and bump into somebody who's got a business idea or just
something going
raising
on,
money or whatever.
Well, there's a couple things that happen. One is what happened in the tech world, and of course there was the dot-com boom and bust that happened in the late 1990s, early 2000s that created a lot of awareness about that. That was a disaster. That crashed. But with all the ability now to communicate rapidly around the world, see what's going on, understand what people are trying to do with their businesses, and then you have movies that come out about how Facebook was started and founded, and you just sort of get this societal energy going, if you will, about it. Then the other thing that happened, I think, in terms of economic development, in many years ago, the whole idea of economic development was, let's go out and see if we can find a manufacturer to move to town to hire a bunch of people.
Right, 500 jobs.
Yeah, and we're just going to build it like that. Well, the mindset started to change a little bit. Maybe we should figure out how to sort of grow our own and build our own infrastructure of quality companies and quality employees in this community. The other thing that I think happened locally, two things that happened locally, two startups here. One was DataStorm that got launched here and grew up and sold off, sort of created this aura and they did the things the Silicon Valley people did, like have fun parties, I should say
Okay,
fun
okay.
parties, things like with elephants and all that kind of stuff. And then the other one, of course, was Veterans United.
Right.
Was another startup here that's now probably over 2,000 employees. So when you have those things happen locally, people see role models of what's going on and what they could do. And then the other thing that happened is, back to the economic development people, when you look at even what the economic development group in Columbia does, READY, which is the economic development group, 4 or 5 years ago began to shift their focus a little bit to how can we grow entrepreneurship and make things happen here better. So you just sort of had this groundswell of stuff going on at that time.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's so there's a lot more interest. Maybe more people think that they see some of the results, and
Right.
so they get a little bit more confident that they can do it. What are some of the things when you consult with companies or talk to folks that are interested in startups? What are some of the things that you talk about that people should be thinking about if they want to try to go down this road?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is, how many responsibilities do you have now? If I'm right out of college and all I have is the clothes on my back and what I can fit in my car, go for it. You're 35 years old, you're married, you have 3 kids. You might want to think a little differently about how you approach it. So do I jump right into something, or do I try to do something on the side, or figure out how I get a partner to make this thing work together? Because it's risky. High risk to do it, but it's a lot of fun if you're willing to go and get into it. Then the other thing that's a key that I really try to focus with is people is how are you going to generate revenue? It's amazing how many people don't understand that you don't have a business enterprise if you can't get someone to pay for your service or product. And it just so if you can't do that, if you can't figure out some way to make that happen, then it's probably not going to be a big success. And then the other is, what's your network of support? Who do you have can support you? Do you have family members that are willing to support you? Is your spouse willing to support this effort you're trying to do? And then beyond that, are the people in the community, your network of friends that are willing to support you? And I think that's, again, one of the things that's happened in Columbia the last decade, is we now have many more resources, community resources in place to support people. I talked about the Missouri Innovation Center and Life Science Business Incubator. There's incubation space. We have coaches. We have executive mentors on staff. Ready has their own incubator called The Hub right across from the post office downtown, and they have coaching people there who help companies and guide them along. And there's a group now in town that focuses specifically on women as entrepreneurs, and they have got a grant with resources in place to help women who want to be entrepreneurs. So as a community, we've sort of developed this resource thing. And the other thing that happens with entrepreneurship when you have that going on, you have a lot of networking back and forth, is they begin helping each other. And so we've got a lot of examples where one entrepreneur helped another one do something, got involved in it and so forth. For example, you'd mentioned I had started a company about 1.5 years ago. I launched a company with 2 partners that's in the food business, and we have a healthy type of food product. And we were trying to figure out how to get noticed in the social media space. And in the incubator downtown, there was another company that had developed this app that wanted to prove that they could deliver advertising, so they could go to someone like Nike and get advertising to do it. So we said, why don't you advertise our product? And they tried it and proved that it worked, and now they're getting bigger advertisers to do it. So that's an example of how you support each other in an entrepreneurial community.
So it's great when that all comes together.
Yes.
And it takes time and luck probably. Maybe with the company, is that Start Right?
Start Right Foods.
Start Right Foods. Maybe you could just walk through how you launch that company, and that will talk about some of the issues that maybe people are thinking about in terms of figuring out, do I have customers? Figuring out, where am I going to get money? Where, how much do I need? And who are my partners, and that kind of stuff. So why don't we take a few minutes and just tell us what that was like.
Sure. We happened upon a recipe for making a healthy toaster waffle.
Okay.
Sort of like an Eggo waffle, exactly like an Eggo waffle, except it's actually good for you.
So it's got whole grains and.
Well, it has a lot of protein
Oh.
in it, 15 grams of protein in one serving, only 200 calories, and it doesn't need syrup on it, so you can pop in the toaster in the morning, get in your car, drive to work, and eat it on your way to work. And you
Okay,
have a healthy breakfast.
sounds perfect.
So we landed upon that, then we tried to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work? We don't have any production facilities. We can't afford to go into production because we don't know if people will buy it or not. It's never been marketed. So we rented some commercial kitchen space south of town, rented it by the hour, again, mixing, making it by hand, putting in boxes. We did get a marketing company out of St. Louis who agreed to help us with the branding side of it for a share of equity. So we
Okay.
didn't have to lay out cash. So there was a trade-off there.
All right.
Okay, they did all the packaging, the logo, the branding, everything like that. And then we said we got one of the local Hy-Vees and Lucky's who agreed to try it.
Okay, so at that point, so now that commercial kitchen
Mm-hmm.
is really set up to do that kind of thing.
It was rent by the hour space.
So-
we'd go in there with our waffle irons and set it up and make waffles for 4 or 5 hours, and they had a freezer in there and put it in the freezer, and then we'd leave.
So if somebody has a recipe for the best tomato sauce, they can go in and use that.
Do that type of thing.
And then the idea about, okay, well, now we feel like we have a good product.
Well, what we wanted to prove that people would buy it. So Hy-Vee is very good about buying locally. Lucky's is very good about buying locally and supporting. So they were excited about us bringing in a local product, and they would put, local product right on the signs to say what it was. And then we used social media, and we did in-store sampling, get the word out, and it started selling. So then the other Hy-Vees in town wanted it, and then the Lucky's Market in St. Louis wanted it. And so then we had to figure out we could no longer afford to pay by the hour.
Right.
It was too expensive. So my partners lived in St. Louis, and the St. Louis entrepreneurial community has some incubators there, much like we do here, and one of their incubators is for food.
Oh, perfect.
So we now rent space in a food incubator near St. Louis University where we make our waffles.
And so far, all of this is with your own money or.
Yeah, I put some capital into it. We formed a corporation, and my two partners are much younger than me. Clint played football for the University of Missouri. Kyle ran track and cross country, so they're very fit, very into health.
No.
And so they're much better being out front on this product than I am.
Oh, you look all right.
So I'm the guy behind the scenes.
Okay.
I'm the guy with the white hair. They're the young guys, and they're just doing an awesome job. But the deal was I put some cash into it. They put sweat equity into it to try to
Okay.
make it go. So that's the trade-off. And we set it up the way it happens quite often in startups is their ownership and my ownership vests over time. They had to agree to work an X number of hours, and then over time they get more and more shares, and their ownership goes up, and my ownership goes down a little bit over time. And so we worked that out so that they could see more benefit long. If this works, they're going to come out much better. If it failed within 2 months and I lost all my money, well, I lost all my money. So
Right.
we arranged that
Yeah.
to make it work. And now we're in 65 stores in 3 different markets. So
Well, so would you say that is how much of that would be a typical kind of startup?
I think it is.
Yeah.
You got to go in and again, focusing on whether consumers will buy it and what they want. The reason we did a lot of in-store sampling and still do, we want to talk to customers face to face. What do you think about this? How do you like it? How does the flavor? Because we've had a couple of different flavors and so forth. And so we've done a lot of, just one-on-one market research by going through this process. I don't think you can sort of hide in your office and make this happen.
Yeah.
I just don't think that happens.
No, I think
Whether it's a food product, whether it's a phone app, whatever it is, you've got to be out talking to people.
I think
see what
that's
they're
sort
after.
of the idea about customers. Do you have any customers is kind of job number one.
Yeah, and one of the things, in addition to the sampling and stuff that we did do a crowdfunding campaign. So we did an Indiegogo campaign, and it was a phenomenal learning experience. And
Okay, so crowdfunding is something
Getting
a
into
lot
the
of people have
crowdfunding.
heard about, and
Right.
it's like, Kickstarter, well, there's lots of them.
Kickstarter and Indiegogo are
And
two
you,
of the
all,
big ones.
you always hear about how, I wanted to raise $10,000 and I raised 500,000. I mean, these tremendous
Oh,
stories.
the great story is Pebble Watch, which was smartwatch, and they went on Kickstarter and said we want to raise $500,000. They raised $500,000. They raised $20 million.
Right.
I mean, so everybody hears those stories, but what they don't know is
Yeah.
I've researched that, and about 15% of the companies don't raise anything.
Zero.
That has got to be depressing.
Oh, yeah.
But that tells you, so what does crowdfunding do for you? In my opinion, it's not so much to raise money. You're trying to create awareness for your product.
Okay.
Okay, you're trying to test the market. If you can't get anybody to send you money for your premium, or because we were giving away bags of our product and stuff, you can't get that. Then.
Right.
How good's-
It's almost like a focus group.
That's right, it is. And then hopefully you raise a little bit of money out of the thing to at least cover your expenses,
Right.
in my opinion. Yeah.
And so your experience, you said, was interesting. You learned a lot.
Oh, we learned a lot. We put together a video. We put it out. You try to email to all your friends and Facebook contacts and try to get them to spread it further, because you have to get beyond your friends and family and get a wider market. So we got some people from around the country we didn't know who contacted us and gave money and got product and stuff like that. So we learned more about how we might market it. That marketplace, created awareness, understand the market, tested the market by doing this and making it happen. So it was good. And, we raised about, I think, $7,000. And our cost of doing the video and all the premiums we gave out and everything like that was about $7,000. So to us, it was
At least
a
it wasn't
success.
$10,000.
It was a
Right.
break-even deal
Yeah.
because of what it did to. But that's, to me, the value of crowdfunding. Is doing that type of thing. And then if you get something really hot, like a smartwatch or something that goes crazy, then yeah, you can raise much, much more money than that.
See, I think there's more people that think crowdfunding is the way they're going to fund their dream, their business.
Yeah.
And so,
On Kickstarter, the number of crowdfunding campaigns that raised more than $1 million was 0.16%.
of all the,
Of all 125,000 campaigns that have been run. So yeah, not very many.
Right. Well, so the other thing, besides crowdfunding in Colombia, is angel investors or folks that they're not maybe doing this for a living, but they're interested in helping the community, and they have some money that they want to invest. And I guess you're involved in the main one here called Centennial Investors.
Right, we have a local angel investing network called Centennial Investors, and I was on the original sort of organizing committee that put together. And the name comes from, in 2005, was the centennial anniversary of the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh,
And they thought, what can we do for our centennial? We could do something like throw a big party, which everybody does, or maybe we could do something that's unique that would help improve the economy in this community. So they had a little party instead of a big party, and opted to see if they could do something in the angel investing network. Because one of the things we'd identified, again going back to my 25 years here, is the lack of risk capital in this community. I mean, if you wanted to go out and start a company, what people tried to do, they tried to go find 2 or 3 rich doctors and get them to write a check, and that was it. And if you had those connections, you get a little money. If you didn't have those connections, you couldn't get any.
right.
So we said, let's see if we can figure out how to put something together to, again, grow the entrepreneurship in this community. So we organized it. It's a network of angel investors, and they're all what are called accredited investors. The Security and Exchange Commission has a definition of that, that they have to have a certain net worth to qualify as a creditor, which then allows them, investments can be made without going through all kinds of regulations of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So when we launched it, we thought it would be awesome if we could get 25 to 30 members in Colombia to help fund startups. We made our first investment 10 years ago. We've invested in about 24 deals, well over $5 million. Those companies we invested in have raised tens of millions of dollars more. 4 of them have failed completely. One of them was a successful sale of the company and exit, and the other 18 are still operating and going on. And our goal of 25 to 30 members, right now Centennial has about 84 members,
Wow.
which for a community this size is just, to me, unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think we have more members than a couple of the angel groups in Kansas City and St. Louis. So to find people who, first of all, have enough net worth to qualify, but second of all, are willing to invest money in such high-risk ventures where they're either going to lose all their money or may not get a return for 5, 7 years, and it's totally illiquid. You can't get your money out once you put it in. I mean, it's there. So if you said, well, I'd like to have that money back to do something else, you're not going to get it.
That's right.
No, it's
Take this
locked.
desk.
Yep, it's locked in the company. Not going to go anywhere. So that's been, to me, a great boon for Central Missouri, is Centennial's been able to do that. And then that has spawned some other things that have gone on. There's a student angel investing group at the University of Missouri. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a class, and they have a few $100,000 that was donated to them to invest in startups, and often they'll invest alongside Centennial investors. And they're a tremendous resource because on looking at companies and doing what we call due diligence on a company, the students will often help us do that. And they're very sharp, very smart. And I think they learn a lot.
Yeah, they learn a lot. It's great experience for when they, whatever job they do, due diligence is important in whatever you're working on.
Right.
I think at the university, so at RJI, we have been sort of dipping our toe in the startup investing world.
Yes, I know
in media outfits, and there's also a renewed interest, or I don't know what you would call it, just sort of an effort to see about all the different entrepreneurial activities that are going on campus, because sometimes on campus we tend to be doing our own thing and nobody else knows about it,
Right.
and then somebody else is doing something else, and then you bump into somebody at lunch and it's like, I had no idea. So there's a professor at the business school who has organized 2 meetings of everybody who's interested in entrepreneurship, and it is probably 30, 40 people from all different corners of the campus. And so that's very interesting as well, because like you talked earlier about how once you get the community, people, you can use the app and and you can help each other. And I think that same spirit is happening at the university, and hopefully we'll get some of that same kind of coordination and collaboration.
Well, I think you're already getting some of that going on. To me, that's what I've observed and seen, that being on the board of the Missouri Innovation Center, where our board members include several deans at the university. And so I see some of that going on, and I see what was put in place with the Biodesign Fellowship several years ago, which was a med student, a resident, an engineering graduate, and an MBA student, 3 working together to find a need in the medical area, engineer the product, and figure out a business plan to develop it. And a couple of those came out of that and ended up being funded by Centennial investors out of that thing. So you have the university putting some things in place that are developing things that could be viable businesses to be invested in over there.
Yeah, and I think that's something, that we've talked about, is this, the pipeline. How do we build the pipeline? And one other thing that happened 2 years ago, is the law school set up an entrepreneurial law clinic.
Right.
And so
Entrepreneurial Legal Clinic.
yeah, that helps us, because like you said earlier, at the beginning of all this, there was only you had to do it all. And if there was a question, you had to get the answer. Now we have folks, that we can send to Ready and the Hub, or they can go to the Missouri Innovation Center, or they can go to the law school and get their LLC paperwork done and stuff like that.
We actually used the Entrepreneurial Legal Clinic for Start Right Foods.
Oh, did you?
Because one of my founders was a student at that time, so he qualified, and I think we were one of the first. I think we may have been kind of their guinea pig doing a startup. So yeah, we worked with them. Sharp students. They were fun to work with.
But I think that's something that the university is interested in terms of how do we encourage that and nurture it. We have a student competition where we take journalism students and computer science students and we give them a challenge, and basically what it has been so far is to make an app. And the challenge is that we get some really good ideas, but they're from sophomores, you know. It's like,
Where do you go with that?
you know, you talk about the pillar number one of your, you know, how to be a successful startup
Right.
is it's got to be the right time in your life, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think we need to work as a university and identify some of these, well, how could we help so they don't have to say, well, if I drop out of school, my mom's going to yell at me,
That's right,
but
yeah.
I got this great idea and you keep telling me it's going to be worth $500 million.
Right, and what resources can the university put in place, or what resources can the university partner with to do that? And one of the new resources that you're probably aware of at the incubator is the Mid-Missouri Tech Accelerator,
Yes.
which was specifically for IT-oriented types of businesses.
Well, and that maybe you can talk a little bit about that, how they kind of broadened from the
Right,
ag.
Yeah, when we first started the Life Science Business Incubator, it was focused mainly on life sciences, and we have phenomenal wet lab space there. But we also, and it's all full, but we also have sort of business office space that wasn't full yet. And so we can't build more wet lab space over here because the building infrastructure in there. So let's see if we can do something in technology. So
Yeah.
we built a beautiful new space there and launched a funding mechanism to fund those startups in the IT world. And that just launched recently. So I think there's
Yeah.
some good opportunities there for your students maybe to
Yeah.
engage with that and see what's
I
going
think
on.
that's very exciting. So we're almost out of time, and I just wanted to have you say one thing. If somebody's out there and wants to get started with a startup or be an entrepreneur, what's the first thing they should do?
Well, the most available and least costly resource would probably be to go to the Ready Incubator
Downtown?
downtown and talk to a gentleman named Colin Bunch.
All right.
So that's a no cost, low cost way to do it. And then he knows everybody else in the network. And if it's something that needs more expertise or needs lab space or something, he can help direct. But that might be the easiest way to get started.
That's as simple as it gets. So
Now, Colin will probably give me a hard time for me saying that. 'Cause
well,
when's-
you didn't give his phone number.
No,
I mean,
no,
it's
I
not
didn't,
like, you
no.
know, so. All right, well, I think we're out of time. This has been great. Thank you very much,
Hey,
Gene.
Randy,
Thanks for
enjoyed
coming.
talking with you.
And we'll see you guys next month.